Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
Gee, this program has been on the air in Taiwan for decades, so it's an honor to serve you again as you continue to improve your English skills here. And today we're going to continue talking about the topic that we introduced last time, which is horror films.
Yeah.
Okay, last time, of course, we had an interview with a vampire, a monster that sucks blood and has that cape and is usually played by a handsome guy, as we mentioned before. But today, we're going to talk specifically about horror movies last year, in the year 2017. It was a great year for horror or for horror movies. We're going to be talking about It today. We're going to be talking about Get Out and another one called Annabelle, Creation, and Split. These are some films that came out last year. I guess there's another one called Happy Death Day, which we'll get to also. So let's get to it, everybody. Let's read the entire contents of today's lesson right now, and we'll be right back. There's no denying that 2017 was an outstanding year for horror movies. A look at the numbers confirms this. Over the year, horror films grossed $1 billion at the box office in North America alone. This is only the second time in history that this has occurred. Leading the success stories are It, which raked in $688 million worldwide, and Get Out, which made over $254 million despite only having a budget of $4.5 million. These hits, plus others such as Annabelle Creation and Split, helped studios recover from a succession of flops. Is there a reason why horror movies are taking center stage again? In fact, there are several. Some point to the influence of smaller studios, which generally give their filmmakers more creative freedom than the big studios. Split, a movie by Blumhouse, a small studio that specializes in horror, is an example of this. It cost around $9 million to produce, yet made $278 million. Happy Death Day from the same studio also exceeded expectations. Another theory is that the recent popularity of horror movies reflects the current mental state of the world, and viewers need to relieve negative emotions by watching scary or violent films. Similar trends have been seen in the past. For example, the zombie movies of the 1960s have been linked to turbulent times America faced during that period. When people feel uncertain or angry, horror movies can offer an escape that matches their dark mood. Okay, everybody, the time has come for us to discuss the contents of today's lesson. So let's get to it. 2017, last year. Of course, now it's 2018. You could also say 2018. That's fine. 2017, 2017, 都可以. And that was a great year for horror, okay, because 2017 is in the past now. So we need to say it was a great year for horror or horror movies. That word horror is kind of hard to say. It's actually two syllables. Horror, okay?
It's like the word for the thing you look into to see your reflection. Mirror. Horror.
Yeah, some people, even native speakers, say mirror, which sounds like one syllable. But
which is what we do if we're talking to each other. Totally.
Or if we talk fast. Yeah. Mirror. I'm looking to the mirror. Yeah, if we're teaching English, we have to pronounce the syllables quite distinctly. But again, 2017 was a great year for horror. If you just say one syllable there, whore, it sounds like kind of a bad word for a prostitute. So you don't want to do that.
Don't do it.
Horror. A great year for horror movies. And here in the first paragraph, it says, there's no denying that 2017 was an outstanding year for horror movies. Outstanding means really great, really wonderful, better than the rest.
Yeah, we can flip this one word to a verb phrase. Stand out. If you stand out, you're outstanding. People notice you. You're standing out for a reason. Hopefully it's a positive one. But it was a good year for horror movies because of the money they made. Look at the numbers. So if there's no denying, it means there's a lot of evidence that proves that something's true. The numbers refer to how much it made, how much a film grossed. So over the year, horror films grossed $1 billion at the box office in North America alone. This doesn't even include the rest of the world. So if you gross an amount of money, it means that's the total amount you made before you had to take out all of your expenses. And of course, movies have expenses, but that's a lot of money just in North America alone. I'm not surprised that we're saying it was an outstanding year for horror movies.
North America, of course, not only includes the United States, but also Canada, and also Mexico and Honduras and Nicaragua, Panama, Costa Rica, etc. Those are all part of North America. Although
that's Central America to me.
It's Central America, but North America as a continent does include them. So I don't know if this is actually talking about just the U.S. and Canada, because Central America is kind of its own separate sort of cultural region, although geographically it's still part of North America. But
all
in any
connected,
case, I guess the point here, though, is that these movies made a lot of money. To gross means you make that money, but you haven't subtracted the expenses yet.
Right.
And then that would be your net profit.
This is only the second time in history that this has occurred. So we talked about how things come full circle. We talked about how horror movies had been popular several decades ago. Then they fell out of fashion. They fell out of style. They became less popular. And now they're back again. So 2017 was really good for some people who love horror movies. We're going to talk about some of those movies that did very, very well. Leading the success stories are It. And we're saying are it because we're going to keep talking about more of these movies. It was very famous. It was based on a novel by Stephen King, a very famous horror novelist. I've seen some of his movies that aren't too scary. I'll go and see, but I have read a couple of his books. Yeah, he's pretty dark, though. So it raked in $688 million. If you rake in something, guys, you take it in, but at great quantities. We'll often use it to talk about someone who's making a lot of money. Oh, he's raking it in this year. Or the stock market's really doing well, and everyone's 401ks just raking it in. That's your retirement fund, at least in the United States. So they raked in a lot of money just off this one movie alone.
Rake, of course, raking means you're gathering leaves on your lawn in the fall. I used to do that at my grandmother's house. We would rake leaves in the fall and either burn them or put them in bags, depending on what the regulations in my hometown were at the time.
And we call that tool... Actually, we call it a rake.
A rake.
So the verb is rake and the tool is rake. We're going to rake the leaves with a rake.
Yeah, there really aren't very many deciduous trees here in Taiwan.
What does that mean?
Trees that shed their leaves basically every year. Trees here are evergreen trees, or at least they keep their leaves all year round. But in any case, we're using that word to describe making a lot of money. You're raking in millions of dollars all over the world. Of course, that was it. We've also got the film Get Out, which made over 254 million US dollars, despite, or even though it only had a budget of 4.5 million US dollars. Budget, of course, is the money you have to do something.
Wow, that's a tiny, tiny budget. That's crazy. Yeah, you have a budget for different things. Maybe your living expenses. I have a monthly budget, which, I tell myself I'm not going to spend too much here or there. Or if I've overspent my budget, then I'll spend a little less the next month. Well, that movie, that budget includes paying all the actors, the director, all of the set guys, the crew. That's a really, really low budget. So they made a lot of profit off that movie. Good for them. These hits that we've talked about, plus others such as Annabelle, Creation, and Split, help studios recover from a succession of flops. If you have to recover from something, it means you get better. You get back to your original state that you were in before something happened. And if you have a succession of something, whatever it is, you have one after another. And a flop is just really not a good word for the movie industry. If you have a movie that flops, you can use it as a verb. You can use it as a noun. It just doesn't do well. It really underperforms and doesn't meet expectations.
Exactly. So we're going to ask this question now. Is there a reason why horror movies are taking center stage again? Why have horror movies made a comeback? Why are they popular again? To take center stage just means you are the star attraction. Everybody is looking at you. The spotlight is on you. So why are horror movies so popular again? Yes, we want to know the answer to this question. And it does go on to say, in fact, there are many reasons why horror movies are taking center stage, and we're going to discuss them now.
We are. Well, in fact, there are several reasons that our authors come up with. Some point to the influence of smaller studios, which generally give their filmmakers more creative freedom than the big studios. Bottom line, it's hard to get a movie made in Hollywood. It's just very, very hard. So the smaller your budget is, the better the chance you have of getting it made. But if you're a brand new director wanting to direct a film written by a new screenwriter, it's really hard, even at a smaller studio, to get it made. So some of the reasons why we're going to talk about these horror films doing good has to do with smaller studios being brave enough to actually put some money behind a horror film and get it made.
Right. They're kind of taking chances, of course. They give the filmmakers and the directors more creative freedom than the big studios. Of course, sometimes when you go see a Hollywood blockbuster, you kind of know what to expect, okay? They always use the same kind of formula, introducing the characters, and then you get the big conflict, and then the resolution of the conflict, and then it's all over again. Sometimes they're very predictable. So sometimes these new studios can breathe some fresh air into an old genre of films. They can give us a new perspective. So lots of people want to go out and say, hey, let's go check out this new film. It's not your typical Hollywood blockbuster. It's actually something very different, and it's worth seeing. It's worth paying the price of admission. So let's talk about some of these smaller studios. Here's an example. Split, a movie by Blumhouse, a small studio that specializes in horror, is an example of this. Now, I had not heard of this movie Split, nor have I seen this movie, but it actually has been released by a small studio called Blumhouse, which I haven't heard of either. I have heard of 20th Century Fox or Universal. Those are big Hollywood studios, but Blumhouse, that's a small studio.
I do have a movie that some of our listeners may have heard of, though. It came out of Blumhouse. They produced it. They backed it. It's called Whiplash, and a couple of the actors were nominated for Oscars. It was directed by Damien Chazelle, who was also the big director. He's kind of a young guy who did La La Land, which was really big. So this particular studio has also gotten behind and backed a lot of these horror movies, which had pretty low budgets. And then what ended up happening is they did well at the box office, giving a lot of profit back to these studios like Blumhouse, which is kind of small. So that's one of the things that's been happening to bring back horror movies into this popularity, this trend that we're seeing.
Yeah, actually, come to think of it, I did see Split at a second-run movie theater.
Really?
It was about a guy who had a split personality, and he abducted 3 girls, and they were trying to rescue them and stuff like that.
Oh.
So, yes, I did actually see that. So, again, that is a movie produced by Blumhouse, which specializes in horror, and it didn't cost very much to produce, only $9 million US, but it made a lot. We've also got Happy Death Day from the same studio. It also exceeded expectations. To exceed means to go beyond.
Yeah, I wanted to mention the specialize is one of our vocabulary words. If you specialize in something, you concentrate on it, you become an expert in it. It's usually a subject that you're good at or a skill. You could be an actor, but you specialize in one type of genre. You could be a director, but you have a certain specialty. We can use that word as well, which is the noun form. Now, that was a really cheap movie. It cost $9 million to produce, but made tons of money at the box office. So we've got Happy Death Day, which is kind of a sad title. It sounds terrible. From the same studio, Blumhouse, it also exceeded expectations. If you exceed something, you go over whatever you were like targeting or your goal. If you exceeded your goal, you did better than the goal that you set. So they actually exceeded what they thought they would have made off this movie. Good for them.
Okay, so again, we're talking about different reasons why horror movies are taking center stage. We're talking about the influence of smaller studios. And here in the next paragraph, it says, another theory is that the recent popularity of horror movies reflects the current mental state of the world, and viewers need to relieve negative emotions by watching scary or violent films. So that's another theory why horror movies are popular these days. This popularity reflects the current mental state of the world. To reflect means it shows something in reverse, okay? To reflect usually means when we look in the mirror and we see our image coming back at us. That's what to reflect means. In this particular case, it echoes or it represents the current mental state of the world. It's just a result of the current mental state of the world. And the world seems to be very sick these days with Brexit going on in Europe and Donald Trump being the U.S. president and North Korea with nuclear weapons and stuff like that. Oh, the world just seems to be tearing itself apart. So everybody needs to go see horror movies to relieve their negative emotions, which is kind of ironic, as you mentioned when we were off microphone during the break there, because usually if things are bad in the world, we want to go see something that kind of takes us away from that. Maybe watching one of those movies from India where it's a happy love story and they get together and they have these huge happy dance sequences and stuff like that. That can really help you ease your depression.
So to relieve something just means you make something less severe or less serious. Some of the drugs or medicine we take are called pain relievers because they make that pain kind of go away. We don't feel it as strongly. So it's kind of interesting. Some people choose to relieve their negative emotions by going to see scary or violent films. Similar trends, things that are popular, have been seen in the past. For example, back in the 1960s, zombie movies were very popular. They are again, actually. Zombie TV shows, at least. The Walking Dead is very popular.
Zombie movie, speaking of which, there was Train to Busan, which came out a couple of years ago. That was a very well-done Korean zombie movie.
True. Well, these zombie movies were popular, and people that were researching, studying this, linked them to the turbulent times America was facing during that period. There were a lot of protests. The civil rights protests were going on. A lot of college students were protesting against the Vietnam War. There was a lot of stuff going on. Turbulent means when things are kind of crazy. There's a lot of chaos. Things are unsettled. There's a lot of conflict, disorder, confusion. So people, turn to these zombie movies to make them feel less, I guess, upset about the world.
Indeed. And when people feel uncertain or angry, horror movies can offer an escape that matches their dark mood. So I suppose that's one reason why people actually go see horror movies. It kind of matches their dark mood. Maybe it sort of teaches them what to do in similar situations, or it just offers them an alternative to the horror they have to face in their normal lives. Who knows? But again, those are some theories or some reasons why horror films are popular once again. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation. Here comes our Chinese teacher.
Hello everyone, my name is Tina. 今天文章的第一句写着 There's no denying that 2017 was an outstanding year for horror movies. 句子的一刚开始如果写着 There's no denying that 再来加上一个完整的句子，中文就要翻译成为不可否认的是。而这句就谈到呢2017年不可否认的是对恐怖片而言是一个 outstanding year， 不同凡响的一年，有很多的恐怖片非常的卖座。接着在这一段的第4个句子提到This is only the second time in history that this has occurred. 我们要特别注意的是，在这个句子当中 the second time 谈到叙述的话呢，后面我们要搭配的形容词子句就要用 that 开头 that this has occurred， 而且要搭配完成式，也就是呢，这在历史上才是发生第2次而已，代表的是从以前到现在为止发生了第2次，所以我们要搭配的是现在完成式。再举个例子来说，也就是呢，在前面有叙述，然后后面要搭配完成式的形容词子句。举个例子来说，这是我看过最棒的恐怖片，你就可以说 This is the best horror film that I have ever seen。接着我们来看到后面的句子继续提到 Leading the success stories are It, which raked in $688 million worldwide, and Get Out, which made over $254 million despite only having a budget of $4.5 million。 这个句子很长，首先呢，我们要注意到的，它是一个倒装句，它的动词呢是 are， 而后面有2个片子，一个叫做 it，一个叫做 Get Out， 这2个片名呢分别有一个呢这个补充说明的句子来补充它，所以在这里的专有名词后面都打上逗号 which 来引导子句补充说明这2个片子。而我们来看一下这里提到的呢是成功的故事的领头 leading， 在这里是有领先的意思，当然在这里谈的就是赚钱赚了很多的这2部片子咯。首先 it 补充说明的是 which raked in， rake 这个动词呢指的就是迅速大量的取得钱财，我们会搭配介系词 in 来使用。譬如说 They raked in a fortune， 指的就是他们捞进了大笔的钱财，这部片子呢叫做它。而后面的另外一个片子 Get Out 也有补充说明的子句，它呢则是呢也赚进了大笔的钱财 despite， 要特别注意尽管虽然 despite 就等于3个字的 in spite of， 后面可以加上名词或者是 VING， 在这里使用的是 having， 他们虽然只有少少的预算，但是还是赚了非常多的钱。接着我们来看到第2段的第3个句子Some point to the influence of smaller studios, which generally give their filmmakers more creative freedom than the big studios. 在这一段呢，谈到的就是为什么恐怖片它会成功的原因。首先呢，大家指的是Point to 指的是什么的影响呢？这些 smaller studios 比较小型电影制片厂的影响。补充说明一下这些小型制片厂怎么样呢？一般来说 generally 他们会给这些 filmmakers 这些呢大导演制作人呢比较多的 creative freedom 创作上面的自由，比起这些大的制片厂来说。后面继续谈到另外一部电影 Split, a movie by Blumhouse, a small studio that specializes in horror, is an example of this. 后面的这部片子叫做分裂呢，它就是一个很好的例子，提到了 a small studio 这家小的制片厂呢，它是专攻在这个恐怖片的制作，它就是一个很好的例子。我们来看一下这个动词 specialize 来当作动词，解释成为专攻或者是专门从事的意思。 继续看到第3段的第一个句子提到 Another theory is that the recent popularity of horror movies reflects the current mental state of the world and viewers' need to relieve negative emotions by watching scary or violent films. 另外一个觉得恐怖片会流行的一种理论呢，就是提到 the recent popularity。Popularity 指的是受欢迎的程度，最近恐怖片会受欢迎，其实它反映的呢，就是现实的这些心态，而且呢，大家有一种需求想要 to relieve negative emotions， 大家想要减缓这种负面的情绪。动词 relieve 有减缓、缓和、减轻的意思。最后一句提到 When people feel uncertain or angry, horror movies can offer an escape that matches their dark mood. 所以当你觉得不太确定或生气的话，也许恐怖片就可以提供你一种 escape， 一种解闷，而这样子的解闷跟逃避现实，正能够符合你这阴郁的情绪。OK， 以上就是今天的课文讲解，谢谢收听。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. As we always do, guys, we have some discussion questions now that we're going to ask each other. I'll ask you the first one, Tom. What kinds of movies do you prefer? Explain your answer.
Well, I tend to like science fiction movies. No, not really Star Trek and not really Star Wars. I don't really consider those science fiction as much as they are adventure movies, but things like Gravity or something like that, dealing with, interstellar travel and
those, yeah.
Scientific concepts and things like that. Those are things that I kind of prefer. I also like dramas if they're based on like old stories and things like that. Those can be very well done. That's, I guess, why I like those movies. How about you?
I like suspense. I like crime dramas quite a bit. I just like drama. Of course, I like rom-com, which is short for romantic comedies. Those are kind of fun. But I do like suspense movies where you don't know what's going to happen, or there's a twist. There's a twist at the end you didn't expect. I like that. So here's another question. Why do you think people like scary things?
Well, I guess it's because it sort of helps them deal with scary things in their real lives. Or maybe things seem scary in the movie, and then you think, gee, maybe my life isn't so bad after all. How about you?
I think people like to feel a little bit of a thrill. It makes your heart beat faster. You get a rush. It's kind of exciting. I think sometimes people just want to feel alive. So they go see scary things. It kind of shakes them up. So take a look at some of these questions. Talk with your friends about these things to practice your English. Right now, though, we got to say goodbye. This is the end, and we hope you'll join us again soon. For English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Tom. Goodbye.
Bye.